And we live. Hello and welcome everyone. It's time for another exciting episode of IT Career in Australia channel. And tonight's topic is master effective networking to progress in your tech career. Thank you so much for finding some time to join me this evening. Please don't forget to introduce yourselves in the comments. Let us know what you do and join our conversations with your questions and comments. Or at least, as usual, please say hi in the comments because we would love to know that you're here and you're listening. So I'm Jana Martins, if you forgot for any reason, and I'm currently working in IT consultancy. So I'm passionate about learning more about present and future of the tech industry, and obviously would love sharing my latest findings with you on this channel. So tonight we're going to talk about mastering effective networking to progress in your tech career. And surprise, Michael, I know some of you was thinking it will be Stefan as advertised on LinkedIn, but you know what? LinkedIn actually not letting me to, not only me, not letting anyone to change the streams. So although Stefan unfortunately couldn't join us tonight, I did change the live stream a few days ago to Michael. So if you, for some reason, was really looking forward to see Stephen, I'm sure he will be back to the stream next year. But so tonight we're going to talk about the same topic, but with Michael. And I know quite a few of you know Michael because he's a master of networking. And I'm sure you are excited to hear his insights. So before I'll pass it on to Michael, just quick reminder, as usual, we're streaming live on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube. If you miss the stream, make sure to go to YouTube channel to watch the replay. I'm going live there every Wednesday, 5:30 p.m. with various experts from my network talking about all the things IT career, job search, in and out of IT industry in Australia. So if you want to make sure you never miss the next show, make sure to join my meetup group as well. So a few people saying hi. Min is here. Devashi is here. Mariam's here. Moved to Melbourne from Brisbane, looking for a job. To just here. Always good to hear you. Thank you guys for saying hi. Rodney's here. Here we go. Rodney, I could have a train home with Michael a few years ago after LinkedIn event. Here you go. You see the power of networking. Great to see you guys. I pass it on to Michael to say hi to everyone.
I guess good evening, everyone. That's always a good start. It's Jana threw this at me a few days ago saying that she needed someone to come and talk about networking. And so I pulled out my blue cables, my crimp tool, and started making some wires. And apparently it's social networking, not computer networking. So who knows what I'll actually say tonight. Hopefully it sounds somewhat sensible. But great to have everyone here.
It will be funny if we'll start talking about, mastering networking. And you pull out some cables and I will be like, I'll just wait for you to finish the show. Anyway, guys, so thank you again for joining us. So please make sure to ask as many questions as you want in the comments. So tonight we're going to concentrate more on face-to-face networking. So there is always, a lot of talks about networking online and LinkedIn and so on. We can touch on this, but we really wanted to make this session about face-to-face real networking with real people, in real life. For some of you, it may be a bit outdated, but it still exists. People still go to events and talk to other people. So I guess, Michael, what I want to start with, maybe just a bit more general question. Why do you think we actually even need to network to progress in our career?
I think it's interesting with career development. As you move further towards your career, it's less about what you know and more about who you know. But then, well, at least that's what I thought. But then I actually had someone correct me on that. I believe it was Jonathan Maltby who told me it's not actually about who you know, it's who knows you. That's the key to progressing your career, whether that's getting a job, gaining some skills, or as happened the other day, getting some free tickets to another networking event. That's always a nice bonus. But unless people know who you are, then you're just another name on a bit of paper or on a resume floating around that's probably got a 50% chance of ending up in the rubbish bin, because some people seem to hire on luck. So yeah, I guess networking for me is, a big part of it for me was wanting to expand the number of people I knew so I could gain the knowledge to take my career in the direction I wanted. And then it morphed over time and became, how can I help other people to do that? So these days, a lot of my network growth isn't at what can I gain, it's what can I give? And that can be just as fulfilling, if not more so. So I guess in some ways it comes back to, how do I find fulfillment? And despite being an introvert, which based on the amount I'm already talking, so it doesn't seem overly apparent, but despite being an introvert, it's, you need to have that network in order to get any sort of fulfillment.
Definitely. And you touched on a few main points, and I think, we're talking about it pretty much every week on this channel, that especially when it comes to the job search, it's definitely about who knows you, because people advertise the job on Seek only if they couldn't find anyone in their network. If they already ask all the colleagues, if any colleagues know someone, great. If they already went through previous applicants, if they always went through some close LinkedIn connections, only then they're gonna advertise the position, because they couldn't just fill it through their network. And I think, so we forgot that the networking is actually probably one of the top priorities when you're thinking about your career.
Oh, definitely. And I think as someone who's hired people before, a big part of it for me is the first people I go to are those I've worked with in the past that I want to work with again. Beyond that, probably who am I connected to that I have a reasonable idea of what they're capable of. Then I go to my recruiter, and only if that fails do I go, let's spend some money on an ad. And if that fails, my network has failed me and I need to go and generate a new network anyway. So at that point, I'm not advertising for a new hire, I'm advertising for a better network.
100%. And I think, today we wanted to give a few tips to the people who's listening. I think Min is just saying, I'm transitioning to UX and seeking for the first job now, and I'm so bad at the networking. So difficult
I saw
so
that,
difficult
saw
to
the
mention
second
I'm
comment.
looking for a job even after several chats with a few connections.
And I think what Min's highlighted here is, despite saying they're bad at networking, I think they're actually good at it. That's my initial impression. Don't go in and ask for a new job straight away, because that's the only answer to that is always going to be no. You get to know the person, and at some point they'll say, what do you do? And that's when you can introduce going, I'm looking for a role in UX. So you're probably doing the right thing, but I'm sure Jana will have a lot more to say on that as we progress through this anyway.
I just wanted to show that networking paradox doodle that Nash actually, I probably need to mention Nash before we sharing his doodle. He's one of the authors of the big book of career doodles, and I just really like his networking paradox, and I think it makes sense to bring it up to the screen now. So, but basically, the idea is how job seekers should build a network, and how job seekers build their network is sometimes go to opposite ways. So and exactly, to the point, you're not supposed to ask for the job from the beginning. Yes, so it's all about having that genuine intent to build the relationship, understand, find some common things with the person, reach out to connect, share, listen to their story first, then share to the story, and only then ask for the job. And yes, it takes some time, but it is the more proven strategy than basically coming to each person around and asking, do you have a job for me? So
and it's interesting looking at that one. I think, Jana, I was you shared that with me before, and my first thought was, hang on, that's not a paradox. The left-hand side of it, the arrow going up, is networking. The right-hand side of it, the arrow going down, is job seeking. And if you want to be really good at job seeking, you should actually network first. So you should always go to the left. I think, at least for me, a lot of it is if people ask for a job in the hope that that will help build their network, they're probably going to lose a lot of their potential network straight out, because I know if someone comes up to me and goes, "Can you give me a job?" I have a one-word answer. That's always no. And then I walk away because I've answered that question. But if they come up and ask me, "What am I looking for at the event I'm at?" we start a discussion.
Yes, yeah, definitely. And I think the important point to mention here, it's important to network, not only like network when you looking for a job or anything. It's important to network consistently. So it's about maintaining and nurture this relationship, and not only that you need a job, because it definitely happening with me often. Like, when I may be connecting with someone, I maybe invite them to events. They ignore, they don't come to the event. But then like half a year later, they need a job, and they reaching out and saying, "Oh, like I'm actually looking for a job." And I'm like, "Where you been for like the last half a year? I invited you to like 3 events and you never came."
Yeah.
So, and then you have this feeling like, look, like I was trying to build a relationship, I was reaching out, but you only come to me then with the question, do you have a job? So I think that's basically, and I think a lot of people have been in that sort of situation. It's about maintaining this relationship. It's about showing up. It's about being a part of a community. It's about connecting. It's about, sharing the stories and listening to people before. And it does take time. I think that's what important to mention. Networking, it's not like a quick way for you to get the job. Yeah. If you need to get a job right now, so you have to use all that, all the methods you have, recruiters, Seek, LinkedIn, whatever. But networking, it's about strategically going into your big career goal and thinking like, who else do I need to bring to my network to pursue my bigger career? And maybe it's not going to be your next job, but maybe like 3 jobs after.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I find I've been to a number of events where there's a lot of people who are either new to Australia or freshly out of school that are looking for work. They don't have a network formed, and generally they're the people that come up and go, "I need a job," and it's like, yeah, that's fine as long as that's all you're looking for. But if you then when I say no, if you then try to convert it to networking, you've already lost that chance. And it's interesting. I saw through that, and this is purely anecdotal. There is zero research that's gone into this, but it seems to take people about 3 to 6 months to get that job. They're better off, rather than just asking everyone for a job, use that 3 to 6 months of going, I know I'm not going to get a job for 3 to 6 months. Get to know everyone, start giving everyone else value, and give everything away that you've got, because it will come back to you through the networking. And you'll probably find that you end up getting, I don't know for certain, but you'll probably find you get the job within that same sort of 3 to 6 month time frame. But it's people who now know you and know the way you work, and you'll probably find a job that you're happier with rather than just a job.
Definitely.
I think that's a big part of it.
To Jessica's good questions. To be honest, I still wonder why people care about who they know before hiring someone, instead of finding a person with the talent. There is a few actually points here, Josh.
Yeah.
Firstly, really simple answer: cost.
I wouldn't even go to that first. I think, for me at least, the thing is, if you're a bit of paper sitting in front of me, how do I know that you've got talent? You're just a bit of paper with a name and some claims on it. I can't prove them. And it's not until you've worked for me for 3 to 6 months that I'll know that. But if I know you, I already know your talent, and I know the type of person you are. And so, yes, cost is a part of it. And I'm a developer. I come from a geeky background. The last thing I think about is, what's the actual cost of this to the business? I'm like, what makes my life easier? What means I don't have to replace you in 3 months? And if I know you, I know I'm not going to have to replace you. So it probably comes back to, yes, you're right, Jana, cost.
And the trust as well. Then you see someone for the first time, or the resume came through. There are obviously some situations when you need the really particular skills. You really need the person with that particular skill, that they did, I don't know, this particular migration on this particular programming language or this particular tools, and you just really need that exact person. And of course, you're going to go through whole recruitment process. But there is so many positions where it's all about the attitude and willingness to learn, and it's not about the really, really specific skill you have. And that's where network comes to play. Is like, do I actually like this person? Do I want to work with this person? Will my team gonna enjoy to work with this person?
Yeah, and it's interesting. I've hired some juniors before, and when you hire a junior developer, the last thing you look at is skills, because they've basically got none. And so you're looking for team fit, or in our case, I call it team fit. What I really mean is culture add. So I want someone who's going to add to the culture of the team, bring in a difference of opinion. Even if it's an uneducated difference of opinion, that's still quite valid. So the hiring decisions are very much based around the personality. And I found once I started hiring a couple of juniors for roles, the more people I hired, the more important their personality was, the more I wanted to get to know them, and the less I cared about their technical abilities. So again, I'm not hiring a person with talent. I'm hiring a person with the right attitude.
Yep, and the passion and the willingness to learn.
Yeah, definitely.
So, Min is asking, actually, here's a really specific example. When people ask what job I work, I'm very reluctant to say I'm job seeking, worrying that I will scare people away.
I think the people you scare away are those that feel they don't have anything to offer you, or that they're looking to take something and you have nothing to offer them. So that's okay. It's self-filtering. But it also depends on the way you say it. If I say, hey, Min, what are you up to? And you say, I'm looking for a job. Have you got one? Then yes, that's done it. You've scared me away. If you turn around and go, I'm looking for my first UX role, but what do you do? Then suddenly I'm there going, back to me again. Okay, I'll tell you. You've told them that you're looking for a job. And if I have a job that would suit you, my next question isn't going to be, I'm not going to answer your question for a start. I'm not going to say, I do this. I'm going to be like, I need a UX person. Let's have a chat and we'll organize a time to catch up. So,
yeah. Or I know someone who might be
non-pleading way. Yeah. And again, there's every chance that just by you saying it and moving on from it, I'm like, I know someone you should talk to.
Yeah. I think it's exactly right. It's also about how you say certain things. It's not only what you're saying. I think there's no point hiding it. Yeah. So you need to say that you're looking for the job. You don't. Yeah. As Michael said, there's no point asking if you have a job, but if you have anything for me. But you need to let people know that you're looking. I think that's part of the networking as well. You need to obviously. If you're looking for something, people can't help you if they don't know that you're looking for something. That's another thing.
And those that can help you will ask you a little bit more about what you're looking for, even if they can't help you directly. So if I'm talking to someone and I'm like, I might know a couple of people who can help you get that type of role, I'm going to inquire a bit more and find out, are you looking for full-time, part-time, remote, in office? Are you looking for contract? What type of company do you want to work for even? Do you want to go into startup land, or do you want to go to an enterprise? So I will then go and ask questions that will help me to find the right connections for you. You don't have to ask me, because if I don't have those connections, or I'm not going to introduce you, I'm not going to ask them. I'm just like, you're looking for a UX role. If one comes up, I'll tell you. So yeah, it's self-filtering. So don't hide away from it. All of us have been unemployed at times. I dare say if you look through my LinkedIn profile, you'll probably find you'll be able to pick where I was unemployed. It's usually filled in with some form of self-employment, because I was a geek and I just loved doing stuff on computers, so it became a job anyway. But yeah, you'll find that people will try and help you where they can.
Yeah, and I think also you can always ask, you don't want to ask the person like, do you have a job for me? But you can always, if the person in the same industry, for example, you ask them, what you do? And for example, they in the tech industry as well, maybe they in the, product space or something. You can always ask them questions that help you looking for a job and building your network, but more indirectly. You can always ask, what is your favorite industry events? Would you recommend to go to any conference, or would you recommend any meetup group for me? So you can ask for those. You can ask those questions to help you to find your next job and build a network, instead of asking direct question about do you have a job for me, or like, I'm looking for a job.
And one of the strategies, you mentioned a couple of bits there, one of the things I've really noticed that I'm really bad at myself is when you start talking to people and you might ask them a question, do you know any meetup groups that I could get involved with? Have your phone ready and the camera turned on, because most people, myself included, will pull their phone out, open Meetup, go scroll, scroll, scroll. You want this one, you want this one, you want this one. And you don't have time to go and look them all up and join them immediately. So you go, take a photo, take a photo, take a photo, go and have a look at it when you get home. It's much easier doing it that way. I've actually found, I mentioned this to Jana before, one of my tricks when I'm out and about at conferences or meetups is I have a little business card like that, which has my LinkedIn QR code on it. And it's because so many people don't have their phone ready to go and scan my LinkedIn QR code. I hand them a card and that's it. I don't have to worry about have they got my details or not. That was, I think I paid $60 or $70 through one of the online printing companies for 250 of them. Not expensive, but and I've still got probably 200 left. I don't go through them that often. A lot of them get handed back to me as well. But
Vistaprint can do like in the seconds and come up with a cool design or anything, and you can just hand them over, make it easy for people to connect.
This particular card's been on the top of my little pile for God knows how long. I always carry them with me. Probably 15 people have used this one print of the QR code because they scan it and then they hand the card back to me because they don't need it anymore. So your very small investment actually lasts a lot longer than you think it will. We're not in the 90s anymore where business cards go out in a day.
Yeah, no, definitely. And it's probably, every time you're trying to find that QR code on LinkedIn, by the time you get there, it takes some time. If you just pull the QR code from your pocket, people scan it. Yep. Yeah, definitely make the life easier. We have a lot of actually comments coming through. Rodney saying, as an employer, I believe the more both parties can invest in making sure they are right to the job, it's better for both. I think it's back to that, building trust moment.
Yeah, this actually reminded me of an interview process I went through. I believe it was when I went for the job at Volt Intelligence, and the entire interview process was more like a networking event, which was absolutely fantastic. I found out 6 months after I started working there that most of the interview process was them tailoring the job to my wants and needs. After the first interview, they'd made their choice between me and the other person. I then had 4 more interviews. And each time there was someone different in the room, but there was still the same core people. And every time the job description came back to me somewhat more aligned to what I wanted. And it wasn't until afterwards I sat down and really thought about it and thought, that was an amazing interview process. They got to know me, I got to know them, and they then adjusted the job to me, which was fantastic. And it was a job I absolutely loved, and I'm so disappointed that place got bought out. But looking back on it, and this is the benefit of hindsight, it wasn't a job interview. It was a networking experience. I knew the team before I even accepted the job, and I knew I would be happy there. So, unfortunately, looks as though Rodney's already disappeared, but he got tangled in some network cables or something, I think he said. But, great point, Rodney, if you're watching the replay.
Yes, yeah. Mark is saying 2/3. I must admit, I sign when the people who have worked for me before go, and on AWOL.
Absent without leave. When they disappear.
And only reappear when they want a referee. Trying to coach my daughter who has just graduated to build new network as she job seeks. It's difficult concept to get across. I should have sent her the link to this session. To be honest, every time that students said something to me about the job, I always tell them, start networking while you're still studying. So by the time you finish university, you already have some connections. Because that's, again, we're talking about this 3-6 months of looking for the job. So while you're studying, you have this few years of starting that networking and maintaining this relationship, and you don't even need to ask for a job because you're still studying, but you're already in the people's mind because you already start that connections.
Yeah, and I think one of the things there, well, first of all, Mark, if you're you can link your daughter to this after the fact, so she can still watch it. She just can't interact as easily. But one of the things I find, I've been working. I was coding for 25 years, so it must be close to 30 years I've been working. I never actually went to uni. I don't know. Well, I did, but it doesn't count. Anyway, that's another matter. I don't really know what it's like to look for a first job out of uni. I know what it was like looking for my first job out of high school. It was hard. I ended up starting my own business. So get the students as they're going to start networking with the more senior people, because even those of us that have done uni, that have gone and looked for our first job and not just started something, it was 20, 30, 40 years ago in some cases, and we have no memory of it. And if we do have a memory, it's a very different memory to what really happened. It's also a different generation. So there's so much that leaders can learn from students, that if a student reaches out to me and says, hey, I'm studying this, I'd love to chat to you, I'm probably going to gain more out of the conversation than they will, but they're still going to gain potentially a job out of it. So yeah, definitely start networking, and the value isn't in what can your daughter get from the people she's networking with. It's what's the value she can give, and that will then pay her back later on. It's a deferred payment in effect.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm just going through so many comments. So Raf is saying, I believe networking is not just about job seeking. How should someone use networking to make yourself known at your current place? What is your top three advice on that? I think, so we mentioned right in the beginning that, having that purpose of networking, and having that career goal, it's definitely helpful when you start networking in the first place. So you kind of have in your mind who you actually want to connect. And definitely not all about the job seeking, but it's also about surrounding yourself with like-minded people who can also point you in the right direction.
Yeah, I had a really interesting introduction to networking. I was, men claim to be bad at networking. Trust me, there's no way you were as bad at networking as I was until I was about 40. I had that little midlife crisis of, what am I going to do for the rest of my life? I've been a developer and I'm bored. So I went seeking for what options have I got. And I actually wrote an article. It's on my blog if anyone cares to go and look it up. I went to 7 meetups in 6 days or something like that. 7 meetups in 8 days, I think it was. 6 in 6 days. I was going to that many different networking events. I was looking at Agile, I was looking at Scrum Mastering, or Agile Coaching, Scrum Mastering, Product Ownership, CTO School. If there was a meetup, I was going to it, as long as it was not coding. And even then, I still went to some coding ones like AWS User Group and that sort of thing. And that was all about, for me, exploring what are my options in my career. Through that, I learnt a lot. I realized I had a lot of value to give. So even once I'd made up my mind of where I wanted to take my career into a technical leadership CTO type role, I still kept going to these. And I decided that I wanted to be the person that I got well enough known by then that people understood my level of knowledge. So I became the person that would ask the stupid question. And that was because I knew there were others in the room that didn't have the courage to ask that question, because they were new. They didn't want to seem stupid. And I'm like, yeah, I know this, but I'm going to ask anyway because someone else doesn't know. So for me, I went from, I'm looking for what's my career goal, to I'm looking for a job, to what can I give back. And now, and I think relative to what Swara says there, is now my goal of networking isn't to find a job. It isn't personal growth. It's satisfaction. It's the ability to give back. It's what can I do for others that gives me the warm and fuzzies. So I guess the networking doesn't change, but your motivator behind it does. So there isn't really a top 3 advice. There's just keep talking to people, give them value. The same as if you're job seeking, you're going to talk to them, you're going to give them value. give them, like, find out what people want from you and offer it to them, or work out what people want that they're not going to ask for and make sure that they can get that. So I think that's probably the key of it. And when you do finally, like, although we say it's not just about job seeking, one day when you're unemployed, you've lost your job, or you've just had enough and you just quit or walk out, or you there go, no, I'm just getting a little bored, it's time for a change of scenery. Your network is there, and that's the first place you'll go. So it may not technically be about job seeking, but that's always going to be an underlying tone to your networking.
Yeah, I think it's a great point, and coming back to this maintaining this relationship. When you don't need the help, you give, and that one time that you will need the help, you will have that network to come back to, and they will remember because you helped them. And I think
I'm sure one day I'll be on here, Jana, and I'll turn around and go, and by the way, if anyone has a job, I'm available. But that day's not today, thank God.
And I think, like, so Raf, if we're talking about just the really simple, specific tips, there is obviously, Michael give a bit higher view, but if you're talking about really simple, specific tips, it's about, if you go to industry event, I like actually do a bit of research and reached out to people before I go to that event. Like, I go through the list and thinking, who I would like to connect at that event. I maybe send them a quick note on LinkedIn, like, I'm looking forward to meeting you tonight, or I'm looking forward to meeting you at that conference. And it's already get that, conversation starter. If I send, few messages like that, someone will reply, someone will not reply. It doesn't matter, yeah? But you can straight away see who's interested to having conversation. And then you attend the event, you already, even if a few people reply to you, you already have few people that you connected online, you can come and talk at this event. So you're not staying in the corner, like thinking, oh my God. And, it's not easy for everyone. Like, I mean, I'm an extrovert. It's much easier for me just to walk into the room and start talking with random people. So I have no problem with that. But in general, it's for a lot of people, it can be an uncomfortable situation. And you walk in the room of people you don't know. You don't know how to start the conversation. You're a bit, unsure. Try to connect with few people before. Say, like, are you coming? Let's have a chat before. And then it's already two of you. And if it's two of you, try to make sure that you're not just closing this conversation between you two, but you open up to the crowd. So make sure that someone can join your conversation. Yeah. So the simple things they
call it the Pacman, it's Pacman. So when you're in a group, if it's two people, don't face each other directly. Stand on a slight angle so there's a space for a third person to join. When you get to 20 people, leave enough of a gap for 2 or 3 people to come in, and every time someone joins, reopen the gap. And you'll find that your people will join because they don't know how to talk. They don't know how to start the introduction. So they listen in. And when they hear something that tweaks their interest, then they'll step in and say something. And everyone's welcome to do that. As soon as you see 2 people standing on an angle, it means they're open to someone joining them. If you see 2 people facing each other directly, then probably don't want to be interrupted.
And I think it's a really good habit. If all of us kind of thinking about it, then it's easy for both parties. It's easy for someone who already having conversation that people welcome, but also when you're coming to the event, you can watch for these open groups and join the conversation. Sometimes I do something really kind of random when I'm joining the conversation. I say something like, "Hi guys, I just would like to interrupt you. I'm sure you're talking about something interesting, but I'm going to just interrupt your conversation and join in." Like, I literally saying something like that. And never in my life someone said like, "Oh no, you can't join." You can't interrupt. You can't interrupt the conversation. No one's gonna do it.
Yeah.
If you attend networking events, particularly.
I think it's also really important when you do interrupt someone, don't be true to yourself. Don't act different just because you're interrupting. So remember, you want to surround yourself with people who like you for you. You don't want to be putting on an act all the time. And this is something I apply it to networking. I've learnt it the hard way through life, in that I used to I was a people pleaser. I always tried to do what other people wanted so they would be happy. And I ended up surrounded by people who liked the fact that I would act a certain way around them. And when I acted like I really am, and I would wear my country bumpkin looking hat and turn up in dirty jeans and a dodgy t-shirt and unshaven, they would always be like, oh, who are you? You're not the person I know. And when I was like, no, I'm going to be true to myself, I suddenly realized that I'm very alone. So when you go to networking events, just be yourself, be true to yourself, and don't go, oh, I have to be really quiet and ask if it's okay to interrupt if I'm not the sort of person that's going to ask if it's okay to interrupt. Go, I'm the sort of person, I'll see a gap and I'll be like, holy shit, I can't believe you think that. This is why I think you're wrong. And they can love it or lump it. Now, I've got the advantage of the next 25, 30 years in coding. I can get away with it. So temper it a little bit, but still be true to yourself.
And I think Ian has actually questioned that you already start talking in this direction. He's saying skin color is a challenge. Sorry, it's a taboo question, but how does the brown guy with the king position improving his communication skills to get an opportunity?
I guess for me, there's a couple of things here. First of all, if someone is worried about your skin color, they're probably not the sort of person that you're wanting to deal with anyway. Now, if you're a middle-aged white male and someone's worried and someone says that, oh, you're white enough for me to talk to, it's up to you whether or not you accept them. If you're Indian and someone goes, I only talk to Indians, that's up to you if you want to accept them. But when there's a difference between it, as if I'm there and someone says, oh, I don't want to talk to you, you're a middle-aged white male, then I'm going to be like, cool, I don't want to talk to you either. It's no loss. Someone that I would never have liked is not in my life. Fine. I guess the other thing is, though, your communication skills is as much about confidence. When you find the right people, they don't care if you stutter. They don't care if there's long pauses as you translate in your head. One of the developers in my team, I know that he's translating every single word in his head. He talks slowly. He doesn't always get the right words. It's fine. His passion's there. I can see it come through. I can see it in the quality of his work. I can see him learning. Sure, he learns slower than everyone else because he's translating it, but that's okay. He's going to get there. And as he's doing it, he also happens to be learning another language that he's now getting better at as he goes. So I wouldn't worry too much about it. The right people will support you. Having said that, it's important to make sure that you recognize, especially, I don't know whether you've moved from overseas or not, if you have moved internationally, remember that you're in a different country. What worked in the country you came from may or may not work here, and be prepared to change it. So Australia has its own weird ass culture. I'm sure anyone from another country will tell you that Australians are weird. So learn to adapt to it. It's a challenge. It's thankfully a challenge I haven't had to go through. I don't know how people do it. And in some ways, yes, I'm envious that you're able to go through that challenge and come out at the other end smiling and happy. I've had enough trouble being born here.
And it takes time. Like, for me, when I moved here, I couldn't speak English. So no matter what skin color I am, like, I just couldn't speak English. And it was really hard to network when you can't communicate to people. Actually, when I moved here, I got fired from 3 jobs. My first 3 jobs, I got fired because I couldn't communicate properly with the customers. But
you shouldn't have tried telemarketing then, Jana.
and now I'm doing like broadcasting. So it takes time. So, and I still speak with the really heavy Russian accent. And unfortunately, it is what it is. Or fortunately, it is what it is. So people remember me by my accent now. So it's all about how you look at this. And yes, it will be challenges in the beginning for sure. And I think a lot of challenges, it will be more cultural difference than skin color as is. Yeah. Because like I went through all that cultural difference myself as well, when people just couldn't understand me and they just walk away because they couldn't understand me. And it is what it is. You go through those experiences, but then you learn, you grow, and you have way more positive experience. I think it's just like part of moving to another country.
Yeah, and I think there's a couple of interesting things on that where I've heard of job roles. I don't know whether they actually exist, but they probably did in the 80s and 90s. And there was a job role called the noisy American, and it's because in some cultures it's seen as disrespectful to talk to more senior people in the organization and tell them that their ideas are wrong. But the Americans were like, no, I think that's a crap idea. I'm going to tell you. And Australians are very much the same. So there was I don't know whether it's just one of those things that's got out of control in the rumor mill or not, but it was a job of the noisy American. Their job was to say, everyone in the team is saying that's a crap idea, and then to report that to a manager. And so there are cultural barriers where people don't like pushing bad news up the chain. I know my dad back in the must have been the late 80s, so this is quite dated information, but he went to another country and discovered that when people there said yes, it doesn't mean I agree. It means I heard you. And so he would present for half an hour, and then he would have to specifically say, do you agree with this? And he would get a yes, or he would get silence. There would never be a no. And he had to learn that that was their way of saying no. And that all the yeses and the nods were, I'm hearing you, not I'm agreeing with you. There's also, I've found, depending on, you can kind of pick certain parts of the world and the different education systems and how people are trained to think. Some areas, some localities around the world are more rote learning. They teach you, do this and do it over and over and over. And others are more around, here's how to think and how to explore and how to come to conclusions that may not really be interconnected. So it is a challenge when you're changing between the two cultures. If I went to one of the cultures where rote learning is really common, I would stand out like a sore thumb. No one would ever want to employ me because I tend to stir the pot. I'm not afraid to go, no, I think this is wrong. We should do it this way. I'm not afraid to go, let's try this. But that doesn't fit with some cultures. And then there's people coming from those cultures to Australia where they're going, I have to tell this person everything they need to do. And if there's any deviation from it, I have to re-educate them on it. And that's fine. There's roles for that, but you have to overcome those barriers as part of moving internationally when you've got that bigger culture shift.
Yeah. And I think what's important to mention, there is nothing wrong in the beginning to network with people from the same country. So it doesn't mean that you're gonna only network with the people, like when I moved from Russia, I had a lot of Russian friends. I still have a lot of Russian friends, and I went to specific Russian gatherings in the beginning as well, because it was the easiest way to network with people, because you already have something to talk with. But it doesn't mean that, you just stick to that. You can start with it always because it's your native language. It's easier to connect, and it will be people in the same industry. And you can start building the relationship with people in the industry through your native language as well. And then you can ask them, could you please introduce me to some people and ask for introductions through them as well. So there's nothing wrong doing that. And it's probably, I would even recommend going on LinkedIn and looking at the people who did the similar career move, like, for example, move from that country, had the same position, that moved to this position in Australia and move forward. And if that's person doing following the career you want to, reach out to this person. You already have someone in common. You're already from the same country. There is nothing wrong to start with this network. It doesn't mean that you came here and you want to only connect with Aussies straight away.
And probably one of the easiest questions you could ask someone who's already walked the path that you're about to do is, what was the biggest challenge you faced while walking that path, and how did you overcome it? Now, don't necessarily ask it directly like that, but that's what you're trying to find out, is what advice can they give you? And most people are really happy to share the advice that they've got, because it gives them that sense of achievement as well. If I've done this, someone else can learn from it. I think it's also interesting, and you mentioned the skin color side of things. Jana's basically said even she had a language barrier rather than a skin color barrier. My sister, this is going back a few years, my sister moved from Australia to the UK and really struggled there. And one of the first things they did after arriving there was move to Wimbledon. And for those that have lived in the UK, Wimbledon seems to be basically populated by Aussies. And it helped her to settle into the UK. She ended up staying there for a number of years and really settled in there. But the first 6 months or so, she struggled because it was too different. Then they moved to an area where there were a lot of Aussies, and that was the introduction she needed. Now, there's no language barrier, there's no skin color barrier. In fact, there's probably only 3 generations in our family if the barrier, if that. Yet she still struggled. So yeah, don't worry about skin color. That's probably more of a scapegoat than anything. And I guess the other thing is, and this is probably a cultural thing, Aussies are known for being racist, but they're not actually racist in the way that you think. They make silly comments because a big part of the Aussie culture is we'll give shit to the people that we like. If we're giving you a bit of grief and you think it's got some racist undertones, it probably means the person you're talking to likes you, which is kind of weird if you're not used to that in the culture. So yeah, it can be a real challenge. And as I said, I'm envious of those who manage to go through that challenge and come out the other end smiling. Having said that, I'm not envious of the people who are going through that challenge now. I'm glad I haven't had to.
Ranjana left a comment here. Being new to the country, I can there are certain challenges. Australia has weird fascination with local experience. However, I have learned first, networking is the first step. Find the right group, volunteer, then form a chain there onwards. Skill can be taught, mindset and culture fit is more important. Explaining your experience in the real life, real-time examples goes further than rambling about the hard skills you had latest technical achievement. Yeah, real life examples for sure.
Yeah, and local experience is a bit of a code word for I don't want to have to teach you the Australian culture. So show that you can fit into the work culture here, that you've got the same work ethic. Depending on the company you're going for, knowing whether that's you have to turn up at the office at 9 and leave at 5 on the dot, there's never anything else, or is it more of the startup style culture where you can rock up at 10, but some nights you'll be there till 1 a.m. and other afternoons you'll disappear at 3. You have to be willing to adapt to that and being able to read the situation and knowing which of those two complete polar opposite expectations exists. And so when someone says we need someone with local experience, what they're really meaning is we need someone who understands the culture, can fit in, can be productive. We don't want to have to teach you how to do things in our way. If we wanted to teach someone how to do it in our way, we would hire someone offshore for half the price. So unfortunately, there are some challenges there, and it's presenting yourself as already having that local knowledge. And yeah, volunteering is a great way to do it. If you want to volunteer, then there's thousands of organizations out there that will put in a lot of time and effort to teach you about the culture, and you'll pick up a lot of it. The other thing is when you go to meetups or potentially go to other special interest groups. I think I mentioned to Jana earlier tonight, after this, I'm actually going to the Austin 7 Car Club because I'm into cars that are 100 years old. Now, I've probably got rocks in my head, but anyway, one of the guys I met there, and I was open to a networking situation despite it being so remote from my career interests. One of the guys I met there used to work in IT. Now, he hasn't worked in IT since the mid-80s. I didn't start in IT until the mid-90s, but we have a common interest. And through that, the culture difference between me and a 90-year-old is significant. That's even within the one country. But I'm learning so much from him. He's also learning from me. And I'm sure one day there will be more than just sort of informational value exchange there, whether it's he knows someone that will help me on my career or whether it's I can help someone he knows. It won't be me helping him directly in this case. He's a little old for that. But yeah, it's really interesting to see that the networking can happen anywhere, and even within Australia there is the cultural difference. So
yeah. And I think so that's worth to kind of reinforce that it's all about networking everywhere all the time. It's not you just go to network event to network. There is just so many connections that can happen in life that you don't expect it. And there is so many other groups that, you might have a hobby, like Michael, being a part of the car club. I don't know, I have like a surfing and kiting community, and I do meet people there from the tech industry as well. And then they come to my tech events because they listen to my YouTube channel, but I met them through, kite surfing. So you never know. So where you meet these good connections. So I think it's all about, I think there's two components. When you network, obviously you should have some sort of goal and purpose in mind and understand what sort of people you want to connect. But I think the important bit as well is being to be curious, because I always have a conversation with people from the point that it could be something interesting about this person. And this person probably knows something that I don't know. And this person probably passionate about something. And if I'll find what they're passionate about, they probably will tell me something really interesting about it that no one else knows. And if you just come with this mindset to any interaction, you'll be surprised how many interesting people you will meet. And yes, and sometimes it could be just a great conversation and you realize that, there is no point of like continuing, you add each other maybe on LinkedIn, and probably there is no like more interaction and connection there, and you in completely different industries. But sometimes you realize that maybe even this person not directly related to your, I don't know, purpose and your network, there will be some cross path, or they know someone you really want to connect with. So it just, you never know. So have a purpose in mind, but be curious at the same time.
Yeah, and I guess part of showing how these external events and being open to networking all the time. I was at a car event the other day. We had all of the cars, about 40 of them, out on display, and I randomly thought, cool, I'll put some of the Austin 7 Car Club business cards down on the seat, and at the same time, the card that I showed everyone before, I'll put some of them on the seat as well. And a guy comes up to me, and he's like, Michael, and I'm like, who's that? And I recognized his face. I haven't seen him since pre-COVID, so 4 years now or something. And I'm like, who's that? We both took our sunnies off, and I'm like, oh my God, it's Slava. I'd seen him everywhere else. And he's like, I saw your cards on the seat of that car, so I waited till I found you. And I'm like, the networking, I wasn't expecting to network at that event. I was there going, I'm here to learn about my car. I'm here just to associate with people from the car club. Yet there I was continuing my networking. And Slava, if you're watching, hello again. No idea if you're here or not, but yeah, it really to me demonstrated the power of some of these events where he was randomly out walking the dog and saw a bunch of cool old cars, and I happened to be randomly showing off my cool old car. So
yeah, you never know. And James is saying also photography classes. I used to run photography workshops, about 6 years ago. And James was actually at my photography workshops, and now he's here listening to my live streams about IT because he happened to work in IT as well. So here we go. That's a great example of like cross networking. Thank you, James, for reminding me.
Jana, you and I met through your video coaching.
Yeah.
So
originally.
Yeah.
So you never know. So you never know. You can meet interesting people anywhere. But I think coming back to this, it's also about maintaining and nurture those relationships, and not only like I'll call Michael only when I need a job in IT.
No, you'll also call me when you need someone to come on here.
Yeah, I only call Michael because I needed the speaker. Yeah, that's the only reason. Why else would I ask you?
It's really interesting as well. Like when we went on your networking walk, Jana, and I think both of us were conscious of we know each other really well. So as we're walking around Albert Park, we don't have the need for you and I to be a pairing to talk. It's like we know we'll talk other times anyway. So we went to, Jana runs a networking event. I went to it because I appreciate what Jana does, and I'm always happy to have a chat to people, and it's good for me to be able to give. And we immediately said, no, we're not the right people to go. We don't need to network with each other for this. We both need to network with everyone else. And so sometimes just being there is all the networking that's required. Jana probably, I'm hoping she would have noticed if I wasn't there. And
Of course.
that's when you know you're in someone's mind, when so
And
so for anyone else, I'll see you on the 18th of November at 10 a.m. at the Albert Park Fitness Station. This was
I'm
not
glad
planned.
you even did my job, Michael. I don't even need to say anything. So yes, so for everyone who's listening, that was just like a perfect plug in. For anyone who's listening, I'm gonna run another face-to-face networking event, tech walking. I'm calling tech walking. It starts at 10 a.m. on Saturday, 18th of November at Albert Park. And what we do, we do the loop around the lake and talk with people in the industry. So please join us. I think like also when you're listening to the session, it's you already learn how to network. So that's your chance to practice it and in real life with real people.
Yeah. And I think also I'm having a look at some of the comments that people have posted as well. There's one there by James. He finishes it off with, "You work to live, not live to work." And I think it's really important there's a group of people out there that do live to work. Some people really love their job, and that's their main reason for living, is they want to keep doing their job. And when you networking with those people is really interesting. I used to be like that. I was always going to die at my desk of old age while programming. I lived to work, and I loved it. And if someone started me talking about programming, I wouldn't shut up. Now, when someone starts me talking about networking and career progression and how to be a good mentor and that sort of thing, I won't shut up, as you can tell by Jana's expression. When you're talking to those people who live to work, they have so much to give because they're so passionate. They won't take much from you because they're so busy giving. And they're the people that can also really help you, because if they can see that you've got a bit of passion, or they can see some potential in you, they will do everything they can to go, I want to work with this person or help this person to be better in the field I love. So yeah, definitely be open to finding those who live to work. They're an interesting breed.
I think we didn't really we're running out of time. We only have 2 minutes left, but another kind of type of networking, I guess, is also finding mentorships, finding mentors and building those sort of relationship, reaching out to people, senior people, and ask them could you please help me with this? Can we please maybe arrange just a monthly catch-ups where we can talk about it? So starting this relationship, and if you start those sort of relationship with someone, they will be your best advocates. If you spend consistently, I don't know, fortnightly catch-ups with or weekly or even monthly, doesn't matter, but with this consistent interaction between you and another person, that's usually that trust build, and that's if they see some position, you will come to their mind straight away, because I have this great person, we've been talking every week about programming, and I know that they're passionate and it's a perfect position for them. So that's probably another type of networking as well, but it is I would
and I think it's really interesting with the mentoring side of things there, Jana. The mentor-mentee relationship is really interesting. That often the mentor will get as much out of it as the mentee, which is really important to remember. Don't feel bad about asking someone to give you advice and to help you, especially in a mentor-mentee relationship. Don't ask them to also make sure that you already know whether they're likely to say yes or no when you ask them. You should be able to pick that up by talking to them. If you don't know, then you probably don't know them well enough yet. The other thing I'd say is, don't feel that you need to have a mentor. Sometimes you end up through your network of having a whole lot of mentors and you don't realize it. And for me, that really came to the fore. I was at a lean coffee event. This is pre-COVID. There was about 10 of us around the table, and the topic of mentors came up. And the question was, who here has a mentor? And out of 20 people around the table, all quite senior, no one said yes. And then one lady piped up, goes, actually, I do. I have 19 mentors. And they're the 19 people sitting around this table with me. And we came to the realization we were each being a mentor and a mentee to every other person around the table on different topics. So in that case, our network, the entire network there had become the mentor. So it was really weird, especially the level of seniority that everyone was at, going, hang on a minute, none of these people have a mentor? And then it's like, oh no, we're all everyone's mentor. So yeah,
because exchanging that knowledge, and I think that's important. Finding those groups, finding those like-minded groups, trying to be part of those groups. Sometimes it's not easy. Sometimes you can create your own groups.
But Jana and I have both done that, and if I can do it, anyone can.
Yeah, you definitely have a few as well. So and I think it's more like, I guess, senior, you have a really specific maybe interest as well, so you can really find that group of people that have the similar interest, and basically to exchange ideas and keep networking within your group, and basically that's the great connection. Someone bring other people to this group, and you're all expanding your network. So there is obviously many ways to do that.
And I know we're going over time, Jana, but I just saw Rajana's comment. Mentors and sponsors are both important, and sponsors are very different. Sponsors, they're really putting their neck on the line. So if someone sponsors you into an organization, they're basically saying, I vouch for this person. If this person doesn't work out in this organization, I fully expect to lose my job over this, is basically what's happening. So yeah, if you get a sponsor, you are in an amazing place with that person. They will go the whole extra mile for you. So I guess for most people out there, you probably won't have a sponsor ever in your life. It's incredibly hard to get that. Ranjana, if you've got that, wow, well done.
There you go. And we have one more question. I know we're going over time, but we can asking which technical networking events or communities are most effective in establishing industry connections and enhancing technical expertise. I just want to ask Michael, do you have your one favorite meetup group that you would recommend?
Pre-COVID, I would have given you a list of about 50. These days, so many of them are online. I can't really recommend any, but things like Jana's network, tech walking is fantastic to go to. It seems to be mainly IT people at the moment. If I still ran my meetup, I would say that one, because that was another walking event. Hey, I'm noticing a pattern here. The other thing is pick your special interest. If you're interested in AWS, go to the AWS user group. If you're interested in Android development or Google's cloud platform, go to GDG. I think there's an Azure Nights for if you're on that side of things. Jana, I'm not sure if Akamai's got one getting going locally for developers, but I'm sure if they do, go to that. If there's a programming language you like, find that one. You'll meet like-minded people. If you're into playing World of Warcraft, go and find the shops that have the areas to go and paint your figurines and that sort of thing. Chances are half the people there are going to work in IT as well.
Or
I know
also
I'm generalizing, but still.
Reach out to people and ask them what events they're going to, because sometimes it's really hard. You go through all the events on Meetup, on LinkedIn, and you don't really know which one to pick. Or when you go to the Meetup, ask people on the Meetup what other meetups they're going to. Because if you find a few like-minded people, they're probably part of another groups, other groups as well. I find that like recommendations has always been the best. So sometimes you just go to random event just for the sake of going there, but then you meet a few people, you click and you ask what other events you're going to, and that's how you find one of the best gatherings. That maybe the name of that group is not as cockerheads or something that's not really related to. You can't really guess what it is if you just see the name sometimes. Unless you know.
I was very disappointed when I went to Cocoa Heads and there was no hot chocolate.
That's what I mean. Like, I would never guess that it's a tech meetup. You know what I mean? I'm like, Cocoa Heads? What? Like,
and from what I've been told, Beer Ops isn't about beer.
There is a beer there.
Yeah.
There is beer there.
As a non-drinker, I wouldn't know, but yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely beer there. Okay, we're definitely running over time. Thank you everyone for joining us. It's been great. Thank you for all your comments. We've been like millions of comments. I think I hope we answer majority of your questions. Mark is saying thank you. for informational session. Thank you so much, guys. Please make sure to like this video, share with everyone who need to hear this, obviously. Next week, we're talking with Louise, and we're talking about navigating team building and hiring as an engineering manager. So Louise will gonna share his experience as a hiring manager, and probably give you some tips as well when you're on another side too. So thank you, Saurabh. Thank you, everyone. Saying thank you. Make sure, obviously, as I said, like this video, subscribe to the channel, all this, exciting stuff. Michael, let's just finish this live stream with your favorite inspirational quote. Go.
Oh crap! I forgot about this bit. There's one that it's kind of a bit morbid, but anyway, it was my grandfather used to always say, "It's a great life if you don't weaken." And for me, that really says, just be really conscious of our health and how much we get at the moment. It's amazing, but it will fail us one day. Make sure that you've lived the life that you want before that happens.
Definitely. So choose to, what was that before? Choose if you walk to live or live to walk.
Yes, yes.
The choice is yours. So, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Michael, so much for joining me last minute.
Thank you, and thank you, everyone, for being here.
Thank you, everyone. We'll see you next Wednesday online or 18th of November in real life. See you.
Yeah.
See you.